What's up, Buffalo Bills fans? A little bit of an absence, but I'm back. Leave after week 3. Went into a little bit of a lull there. I did not like them losing to Baltimore, and I definitely didn't like losing them to Houston and Houston. It just was like wrong opponent, wrong time type of thing in my opinion. And I know a lot's happened since then, but it's just funny how all those games, even leading up to last week against Tennessee, it was a lot of the same things that is either ailed the Bills or just would pop up in game, like big lulls in offensive utility, not taking advantage of turnovers. Not last week, but prior weeks were missed kicks, like with the Jets and in Baltimore and in Houston. You just can't have that stuff. You just can't have it, and that was my biggest takeaway from those games. Is there was just little pockets in these games where they could have turned, and the Bills could have won. Like in Baltimore, not taking advantage of the Lamar Jackson fumble. Basically, I think they went 6 plays and had to punt, and then obviously they it's 10. Even if you get a field goal out of that, it's 13-21, but it's okay, honest. Let's say, okay, it's 10-21, and then they pull the boondoggle trick play with Samuel, and there goes the game. There goes the game, and Cole Bishop makes a mistake, doesn't have Dorian Williams back on Justice Hill, and there's a touchdown, and then you don't fall on a fumble in the end zone. Granted, they drove down there, but you don't fall on that fumble and keep 7 off the board. It's tough, and then you go to Houston. So it's a huge stretch of offensive futility, and Cole Bishop not having Rasul Douglas is back. He's a rookie player. He's young, and then not taking advantage of the Terrell Bernard turnover. You don't take advantage of the Terrell Bernard turnover to the fullest. You only get 3, I believe. Actually, you don't get anything. Sorry, they don't get anything on that. They flip field, and then they get another turnover, and only 3 points. Josh Allen's on the sideline for the first play, and then the whole boondoggle at the end of the game with the 3 plays in the shadow of your own goal line. Yeah, it's very, very frustrating. Jets, they come out, they're a lot better. A lot more physical throughout the entire game. The hits, and then that game, and then this week with the penalties. Jesus Christ, this league needs to get a hold of these Ebers. This is ridiculous. And I was in shock the game went as fast as it did yesterday, because the Bills game was over, and if you looked around the league, a lot of the 4 o'clock and some of the 4:25 games were still going on. They had 10 and change left. A lot of us were able to see the end of that, Commanders and Bears. That was insane. Yesterday, just to digress for a second, was a poster child for why this league is a 10,000-pound gorilla and will never be defeated. Just the drama and storylines that were created within the games, after the games, it was insane. Insane. By comparison, the Bills game was over, done and dusted, third quarter or so, and that was it. It just, some of the other stuff was just wild. But hey, I don't mind watching stress-free football. That's always, it's most fun. But even with the Jets, you had missed kicks, you had, there's always a boondoggle in these games. It just seems like with the Bills where it just sways the game, and you get that Hail Mary at the end of the half. You don't get a PAT. You feel good. You're going in 21-10, and you're getting the ball, and they do that, and it's maddening. It's maddening. You feel like you don't get that Bass field goal. You feel like that would have been the double dip. But instead they allowed that Hail Mary, and you feel like you're good. You feel like you're 21-4 and you're in control. And instead, the Jets tie it. Granted, they missed some field goals too and had some issues, and they've continued to have kicking issues. But I just feel like the physicality in the game was more favoring the Bills. Some of those Taylor Rapp pass breakups were insane. I have no idea how he didn't get flagged for, like, defenseless receiver or anything of that nature when those hits were. I was in shock. Like the one on, I believe it was Jeremy Rucker late, and then the one in the end zone on Garrett Wilson saving a touchdown was just crazy. And we've seen that again. These games just kind of mirror each other. Yesterday Josh saves a touchdown on the INT, and then the Bills hold. Seattle was in its own way yesterday. They had problems with the weather. They look like the road team, which is crazy for a team that has such a reputation for having a home field advantage. Boy, they didn't look like it yesterday. I mean, the Bills fans were insane. I knew a few people who were in the building, and they were. It was live. It was a live scene there with Bills fans. It was crazy, and even Geno Smith commented after the game how crazy it was. But then you have the Tennessee game in there, and again the theme: big stretches of offensive futility. Allowing a team like Tennessee to come into your place and be up 10-0, much like week 1 against Arizona. And then that win doesn't look so bad right now. Everybody was kind of disparaging the Bills, and it tends to always happen. We tend to want to, assign more credibility with wins and win losses. That's ridiculous. Arizona's a much better football team than people give them credit for. They're first in the NFC West, for Christ's sake. And granted, it's a lot of, but they're winning games and they're finding ways to win. So hats off to them. They've done the AFC a few favors. They've beaten the Chargers, and they've beaten Miami. So, big ups to them. The Jets losing yesterday against the Patriots, who has split the season series. It's a wild turn for them. They've lost, I think, 5 in a row, or 4. They're really up against it. They have Houston on Thursday night on a short week. Houston has their injury situations. I don't need to go into those. We know what they are. It's crazy. It's crazy how fast this league is so week to week. But yesterday the Bills, they come out strong. And then, obviously, like I've already alluded to, the Flag Fest was on full display from the opening drive, and they just seemed to overcome it. They seemed to overcome it, and I haven't even addressed the Amari Cooper acquisition, which was huge. It's just huge. He was drawing a lot of attention yesterday. Obviously, the first pass that Josh throws to him is an incomplete pass, would have converted a first down. And yesterday he slips. And these games, I always he slips a little bit, and then it's Josh's first INT of the year. But again, they didn't give up any points on that. They stopped them, and that whole sequence where they only allowed 3, that was huge, and that pretty much really demoralized Seattle, and they were able to win the game. James Cook, wow, the runs he had yesterday. I don't know. I guess he heard some of the calls on the radio and some of the stuff about Ray Davis's good game, and it's a good problem to have. It's a really good. This is the best stable of backs they've had in a long. I mean, it's the best stable of backs they had since the triumvirate of Shady, Carlos Williams, and Mike Gillislee. They're all good pass receivers. They're all damn good blockers in on third down, and they all run really, really hard. Cook has really elevated his putting his head down and running hard, picking up just that extra little bit. And I think a guy like Davis has done that. Davis smart yesterday, getting down late, sliding, just keeping it, just keeping the clock going. And you're able to, victory formation. Josh was out of the game for the last, however many minutes. I think this is like the fourth game of the year that fourth for the guy. I know one was in a loss in Baltimore with Trubisky, but keeping Josh healthy is first and foremost. especially if there's any issues with the hands. But this isn't really a game recap; is more as a season recap because I haven't been on so many weeks. But it's just kind of, I always found it funny how these games, they all took on, they're their own entity, but they all kind of like the same things. It was like the same things that happened, and obviously having Taron Johnson back on defense is a tremendous help, and then allowing Cam Lewis, Cam Lewis has turned himself into a player. Like, he almost had a pick yesterday. He read that, and I know Sewell jumped the route, and he almost had that would have been a pick six. Like, he was in full stride, ready to run into the end zone. They've really done a nice job stabilizing. You have Vaughn's suspension week 1, Taron's injury. Second week you have Bernard's injury, and they've had rough moments. Bishop, they haven't really tapped into him yet. You lose Milano before you even play a preseason game, or a game that matters. Granted, he wouldn't have played in the preseason, but hopefully, and it wasn't a leg injury, so that leg can heal up a little more, get his arm right. Obviously, it'll be harnessed or some way to protect the biceps, but you're getting guys back and you're winning games without some of your arguably your best players on defense. You didn't have Oliver for a few weeks. Rousseau has been playing exceptional football. I believe that Daquan Jones had his best game of the season yesterday. Really, really played well. Dorian Williams is a tackling machine. Granted, he's not quite as sage in the pass game yet, but I think that's the next step. And look, nobody expected DeMar and Rapp to be the safety tandem, but they've locked it down. I mean, they were running second team safety tandem last year, all in practice and stuff. So they've, that was behind guys like Poyer and Hyde, and so they, and DeMar's been there. This is 4th year. He's been in this defense. He knows how to play it. He started the year prior before the incident, and he's gotten better. And he's a guy I felt like, I don't know about the whole thing. Just maybe I thought he was going to retire. I thought he was going to, I came back, I proved it to myself, and I can, don't want to risk anything anymore. But man, don't listen to me, dude. You've been an amazing story, and keep writing it. But all across the board, the defense has knock on wood, please have this injury run end at some point. I mean, unfortunately, Dwayne Carter goes down, probably going to miss 4+ weeks. Maybe get him back after the bye. With a wrist with a defensive lineman. I mean, you can't hide it. You can't hide it. So you want to have that thing as close to 100% as possible. And he's missing his first game. He's got 3 more to miss. So that's Miami, Indianapolis, and then you got the Chiefs, and then I believe there's a bye, so maybe you can get him. That extra week provides him a chance to get back, and I think the first game back is against 49ers. But yesterday was a crazy day in the league, and just the storylines were insane. But with the Bills, just the offense, I haven't even gone into it. Starting fast, they overcame a ton of penalties and just kept moving. It seemed like, again, the only people who could stop them was them and the refs. Where the refs were trying to stop them, they just kept overcoming these penalties. The one sequence that did frustrate me in the game was when they got down to the 5. That's the field goal drive. They ended up settling for a field goal. They were 1st and goal at the 5, and they threw a pass. Josh had to, he scrambled out, he booked, and he ended up throwing it away. It looked like a bit of a broken play. And then Josh ran on the next play, kind of a predetermined. It looked like a keeper that, maybe another broken play. And then it was just like, dude, run the ball, run the ball. Like, I wanted them to line up and just move, though. They were knocking them off the line pretty well, and I thought, okay, Ray Davis time here. And it looked like they were trying to spread them out and let Josh run it in for a touchdown. But that didn't come to fruition. That drive frustrated me. But I believe on the next drive, they got the interception. Austin Johnson was just money on the spot. It always frustrates me when you see these little, like what Tennessee was doing. They realized they couldn't protect early. They had to get the ball out of Rudolph's hands quick. Same thing yesterday. Once Seattle couldn't protect Geno and they couldn't get any movement in the run game, they were relegated to that little just hurry up offense, kind of like dink and dunk. Later on, Geno did force the ball downfield on them, and it really just, you can't do it all. It's not going to last the width of the game, because eventually the defense is going to come down. They're going to make some plays. A tip is going to happen. And we saw it again. The Bills almost had 2 picks, and then just there's a defensive lineman finally in the way. It gets muddy in there. A lot of hands up. You don't see everybody. And Casey Tuhill got his hands on it a little bit, I believe. And then Johnson just got it right in the breadbasket. Obviously, defensive linemen, not the most... They're athletic as hell, don't get me wrong. But when it comes to, like, the corners, wide receivers, and whatnot, not as fluid. You felt like he could have ran with it a little bit, but he just went down, held on to it, and held the ball up. I believe Cook finished that off with a touchdown, and it was, you're up 31-3 or 31, then it's good night, Charlie, at that point. Ramius is happy, I'm happy, and you got Miami coming in. They're coming off an L. The division, everybody's 2-5, 2-5, 2-6. It took the Bills last year to week 17, week 18, last game of the year, to win this division in Miami, and we all remember watching it. It was Deontay Hardy's punt return, Trent Sherfield's crazy catch in the end zone, and then Dawson Knox catching the touchdown and winning that game. And Taylor Rapp to seal it with the INT. If they're able to get this W at home in front of their fans against the Dolphins, and you go up 2-0 on them, they're down to 2-6. You've locked it up by around midseason. You've locked up the division, I think, for the most part, barring a catastrophe. And this is a year where a lot of people felt they were going to take a step back. Got teams like the Jets were going to come, and the Dolphins were going to take their step. And granted, they've had their injury issues and continue to do so. So have the Jets, whether it's contract, injury, trade, just upheaval. And the Bills have, been steady Eddie. They had their little lull. They're back on track now. And I think, knowing that they're home, they have to... this is the time to really put the nail in, so they can go into, not say cruise control, but they can build. Because you never want to be playing your best football too early, but you want to start building for that now. I mean, the greatest of coaches said, the better teams are playing their best in November and December when it matters, and then obviously in January. So you want to build to that. I don't feel like the Bills are playing their best football right now on either side of the ball. I feel like they're playing really, really good, but I feel like there's still more runway there. There's some more meat on the bone for them to get at. And I think we all feel like that, especially with Cooper. I mean, 1 catch for 3 yards. I mean, granted, obviously probably drew a lot of attention yesterday. I haven't seen any of the panoramic views, but, Keon, to me, yesterday was amazing. He had a great game yesterday. He really, really flashed yesterday, and he had his first 100-yard game the week before. I felt like he should have had that touchdown, and you just feel like, man, he's building. He's building. And the Bills got caught for an offensive PI, and that crackback block on another catch he had that got called back, which was ridiculous. because I saw a penalty called in the 49ers Cowboys game where Conley just destroyed. I mean, ran right into the two Dallas DBs. They throw the flag. Kittle scores a touchdown. It's at the like 5-yard line. It's a close touchdown. And then the refs convene, and then they pick up the flag and say there was no offensive pass interference. But what was called yesterday against the Bills was so soft. It was just like that crew was just insane yesterday. They were just out of control. I can't say that enough. It was bad watching it. But I'll let you go with that, Bills fans. We got a big week. Let's see what the injury report looks like. Look at last week with Carter. We had no idea, and then all of a sudden he pops up with the wrist, practices. He practiced on Friday. Then they put him on IR on Saturday. Curtis Samuel's down. Let's see what his status is. I don't think he'll play this week. Jalen Virgil did a lot of the stuff he did, with the motions and shifts. Took up a lot of that real estate. So we'll see what happens with that. They still have 52 men on their roster. That's obviously going to be a Vaughn call-up, and then see what they do with, Zion Loge, who they added. When Vaughn got suspended, unfortunately, after the Baltimore game. So they've gone 3-1 in each quarter of the season, and that's what you want to do. You want to win the quarter, and that's how you win your division and get to the playoffs. So this is a big one. Miami's going to be hungry. They're going to be desperate. We know they have explosive players. They have players that have given the Bills fits in the past, like A-Chain, and you have Waddle and Hill, of course. They can do their things. Jonnu Smith's a pain in the butt. He catches those short ones. He's got some good rack ability for a tight end, and you got pros on that other side of the ball. You got Poyer. You've got Jalen Ramsey. They got work, though, yesterday. I'm not going to lie. Trey McBride did watch that early game, and Trey McBride and I always usually watch the Bills' next opponent if I can, first or after. And Marvin Harrison had his best game as a pro. He really had a good game. And then Trey McBride really, maybe this is a Dalton Kincaid, Knox getting off the snide yesterday with those two big passes over the middle from under center. Josh checked to the last one. First play of the game was the 20th that got out of the shadow of their own end zone. Finally, Knox has that ability. He's not a fluid, loose guy, but he can do some damage in the middle of the field, and he's pretty good run after catch. He's turned into a sure-handed guy, and got to tap into that. That's why I said we feel there's more meat on the bone, and I think this week could see some of that with those tight ends. Victory Monday. Go Bills. Love you all. Thanks for sticking with me. Those of you who have, I appreciate you. And those of you who haven't, I understand. I'm not on as frequently as I'd like to for whatever reason. I'll try to be more consistent. I'm not special. I'm not like, somebody trying to be like turn into something or charge you guys money or get you to buy t-shirts or any crap like that, super chats and stuff. Never going to do that. I'm not worthy of that, number one. Number two, I just don't think it's in very good taste. All right, go Bills. Love you all.